Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where it has been a day of heroes, especially a day of heroes if you are Irish. Ireland have taken down England. They've slayed the dragon, and in this case, England are the dragon. And the other heroes, there's not just one set of heroes in town. The other heroes are us, Ross. We're in many ways the real heroes of this T20 World Cup. How does it feel to be a hero?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I'm a hero, but it feels nice you telling me I'm a hero. That's quite a nice way to be, isn't it?
You know, those cricketers, they go out there, they play cricket, once every 4 or 5 days? We're doing 3 podcasts a week. Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. It might only be an hour. Yeah, we might be sitting down. Normally you have 3 points, don't you? I don't have a third point. But that doesn't mean we aren't heroes. Ross, it was pretty exciting. Well, I don't know about exciting. It was a big upset this morning. What are your initial thoughts?
It was an absolute bollocks performance, as someone's put it in the show. No, it was one of those things which, when you look at it when I was watching it, I was unbelievably frustrated the whole way through the game. And it's just that England have not turned up for this World Cup. Like, we played some good cricket kind of leading up to it, but it just shows you like some of the warm-up things are pointless if you can't turn it on against what are two sides that we should easily beat on both occasions, even with the rain around. But yeah, fair play to Ireland. They did what they needed to do today, and yeah, England did not deliver.
Right, so Ross, we're going to be talking about 5 cricket matches. 2 of those cricket matches were no results because of rain. The other 3 matches are Bangladesh, Netherlands, Sri Lanka, Australia, and as we said, Ireland v England. Where do you want to start with our smorgasbord of cricket?
Oh, I mean, we've got to start the England game. Surely got to start the
All right, we can start with the England game. This is what happened. Ireland batted first, and they kind of went for it, didn't they? They didn't hold back. They dealt out some damage to Chris Woakes in particular, and it looked like they were going to get a really decent score. Fortunately, England's little pocket rocket, Sam Curran, made a couple of breakthroughs, or not really breakthroughs, kind of swept up the tail and brought things to a rather swift conclusion. Ireland going 149 for 6 at one point to 157 all out with 4 balls to spare. In response, England got off to the worst possible start. Josh Buttler dismissed second ball, caught behind. Josh Little, who is a fine bowler, by the way, picking up the other opener, Alex Hales, for 7. Stokes got a pretty good ball, I think you'd say. We'll talk more about him, but for now, let's just park it with pretty good ball. and then Milan and Harry Brook went through a kind of rebuilding phase. They did the rebuild. Then they both got out. And then it looked like it was going to rain. Then DLS came into the game. Then Moeen tried his best to sort of hit England out of the hole they were in. And then England lost. They I don't think managed this game particularly well. Where would you like to start? With Ireland maybe instead of England?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And I've just turned my mic up for people who are saying in the chat if it's not coming through. So hopefully that's going to be better. Let's start with Ireland, Jack, because we said coming into this that they'd slightly changed their approach. They were going to adopt that we're going to take the high risk, high reward strategy, and hopefully it will come with a victory over 1 or 2 of the bigger nations. It certainly worked getting them through the group stage, in fact. And here, yeah, as you said, they came out of the blocks, and Andrew Balbirnie had a proper captain's innings.
He did. I think in one of the earlier shows we were sort of not questioning, but we were kind of pointing out that he never really seemed to do it in this particular format for Ireland. I mean, he's one of their better cross-format players, I think, Balbirnie, but T20 is probably his weaker suit. These will be the runs that matter to him, though. 62 or 47. And he's a big part of why Ireland rather get up to a good score. Lorcan Tucker as well was really good, and very, very unfortunate to be run out backing up the way that he was off like the bottom of Adil Rashid's right hand fingernail. At one point, talked about how they collapsed a little bit, but at one point they were 100 for 1 with 8 overs to go. A lot of people say double your score in the last 8 overs, don't they, in T20 cricket? So I think 200.
It was a big collapse. It was a big collapse.
200 is a bit ambitious, but they probably were ruining, I would imagine, at half time that they only got to 157, which probably felt like a gettable score. Curtis Camphor at a few boundaries, 18 off 11, continues his pretty fine tournament. But yeah, other than that, it was a little bit quiet on the island batting front. Did you like any of England's bowlers? What do you think about any of them?
So I thought Mark Wood was again a handful. It's really important that he is fit and firing because he does make that difference. I think he still went for 34 off his overs, but he was probably the pick for me in terms of other than obviously big old Livingston who was there. What was surprising was that Chris Woakes was targeted by Ireland. It wasn't just that he was bowling wayward; he was fully targeted by Ireland as this is the guy we need to go after. And with the white ball in this World Cup, it's swinging and seaming more than it has in other World Cups. And yeah, it was a brave decision to go that, but it paid off in a big style, didn't it? 4 overs for 41, I think it was.
Yeah,
3 overs for 41.
Picked up no wickets as well. And we've talked a few times about how England's approach in this World Cup has been to try and take early wickets. Chris Woakes is a big part of that because he's a very good power play bowler, but Ireland weren't having any of that. They ripped up the script, as they say, to smash him all round the park. I thought Ireland were pretty good with ball in hand too. I've already mentioned Josh Little and the magic delivery from Fee on hand. But none of the bowlers really let themselves down, I don't think. Delaney's slightly expensive, but still under 10s. They hunted in packs and they all performed their role.
Yeah, they would have been disappointed to give away, kind of 10 wides in that, when, again, it's doing the basics right. But again, in a high-pressure game, the bit of nerves are going to be there, and you're trying to execute some difficult bowling plans too. What are typically really explosive batters. So you normally have to try something a little bit different, and that can risk it. But here, they looked to be in control. But I was listening to Ravi Bopara as I was on my way to work, and he was like, when in these situations, smaller cricketing nations, as Ireland are compared to England in the grand scheme of things, that sometimes in this position, they will make a bowling decision which is a mistake in the final 5 or 6 overs. And it kind of rung true, right? The bringing on the leg spinner to Moeen was almost a very, very costly decision. Potentially one more ball in this game, and England would have gone through or would have won with the weather coming down. But it didn't work out that way, and England were 5 runs short in the end.
Yeah, they were. It was kind of a bit of a damp squib end, wasn't it? If you're Ireland, you probably imagine beating England at the World Cup to be this career highlight where you're running onto the pitch to celebrate the last ball win, or like you're in a big, gang of guys running around the pitch going ballistic. But it was one of those kind of slightly farcical, not really farcical, but slightly quiet endings to what is a huge win for Irish cricket. I mean, there's no getting away from that. For as embarrassing as it is for England, or as poor as England played, there is another team in this. It is Ireland, and Ireland have done it again for England to really back up their credentials. One of the better cricket teams in the world. It's an excellent performance from them. I've got a question for you. 105 for 5 with, what is it, 33 balls left. England need 52 to win. They've got Moeen batting well, Livingston just in, Sam Curran, Woakes, Adil Rashid and Wood in the hutch. Are you backing England in that situation?
We got 2 of our best T20 batsmen at the crease in there, and Moeen was smoking it. He was in the mood, and Livingston would be high off the confidence from his bowling. So I think it would be a very, very. It would go down obviously to the last over, but I'd be backing England from that position. If we didn't have that over, obviously just before the rain break, England were completely up against it, and Ireland were probably ahead. And yeah, it's a bit of a shame that the weather did happen.
Yeah, I think so, and I'd probably back England as well. Having said that, DLS doesn't take into account the fact that England have only seen fit to introduce 2 of their best batters to the crease with like 12 overs and 13 overs to go. I think England got quite a lot tactically wrong in this match. I had a few notes about when they bowled people. Wokes really got smashed, didn't he? Bowling a random middle over. I think it was like the 13th over of the match. It might have even been earlier than that. Which isn't really what he's in the team to do. Mark Wood, on the other hand, who is supposed to be in the team to do that, bowled 2 in the power play, which I also thought was kind of strange. I think we praised Buttler on the last podcast. I think we said that his captaincy was getting better. I think he got quite a lot wrong here, and I also have some question marks around, one, how he captains Adil Rashid, but 2, whether Adil Rashid is some way past his best at this point. Any thoughts on either of those hypotheses?
So I having Ben Stokes in the team, I think is a question mark at the moment. Right, this guy's an elite level player. The big games come to him and all that kind of stuff. But here, opening the bowling, and then when the ball was moving, he didn't go for any runs really. Why didn't we look to give him kind of another over in that power play? And as you said, like, we're kind of wasting the resources that we have available to us. And it's okay if Sterling and Balbirnie get off to an okay start. They're not bad players, but we need to be thinking around things in a little bit of a different manner. And yeah, the decisions that were made both on the bowling front and the batting front were just a little bit surprising. That first 10 overs, they've all come out in the press conferences and said that first 10 overs really cost us. But that's on you, right? You can't just say, oh, we weren't turning up to the game, we're not doing this. Like that is literally on your decision to be like, do you know what? It's not working with Wokesy. We're gonna have to change tact. As far as the comment around Adil Rashid, I think the majority of spinners are struggling in this World Cup at the moment. There's not too many who have hit the ground running. You saw Hasaranga get absolutely walloped yesterday. So I'm not too worried. This is probably Adil Rashid's final T20 tournament, and that's all right. I'm not sure there's a better option at this point in time that we want to have in this England team.
Livingston took 3 wickets today. That's more wickets than Adil Rashid has taken in his last 10 T20 internationals.
It's really,
Yeah.
that is staggering. So cumulatively, Adil Rashid has not taken.
He hasn't taken 3. I think he's taken 2 in his last 10 matches in T20.
That is not so good.
That is a cause for concern. That is definitely a cause for concern. Yeah, if you're England, I mean, he was economical today, and as you say, the conditions. But I think, partly because of the bounce, actually, almost taking Bold and LBW out of the play for leg spinners. So Adil Rashid will pick up a lot of wickets in England and in Asia and in a lot of conditions, with wrong-uns that stay low enough to hit the stumps, either bowling people or getting them out LBW. Same for Hasaranga, big wrong-un bowler, and talk about him later. In this tournament, some of those deliveries are just bouncing over the stumps, which means you sort of have to go really full if you want to target the stumps, and then you're only 2 feet away from bowling a half volley and getting pumped. Your margin for error just seems like it's a little bit less if you're a leggy, particularly in this tournament. I think there's quite a lot wrong as well with what Buttler did. With the bowlers. Stokes bowled so well in the last match in the power play. I don't really get why you wouldn't back him with another over, because it gives you such flexibility as well to either not go with Wokes later on, or to bowl less of Livingston if he went round the park. As it turned out, he bowled pretty well, so then that wasn't a consideration. But I do think if England are going to play Stokes, then they do need to have a clear bowling role for him. I think his best bowling role in T20 cricket is probably in the power play, where to some extent he can replace. I don't think he's in the same tier of bowler, to be honest, but to some extent he can replace the overs England lose from Reece Topley. Like, there is a bit of threat there, and it allows them to stick with the same game plan of taking early wickets. I don't know why you'd go away from that when it worked well in the first match, especially when you know that Ireland are really top heavy. That Sterling, Balbirnie, Tector, you can get them out early. There's not.
You're not going to have another Curtis Campher special.
Well, then they're relying on someone pulling out a career performance to get a score against you, and we saw what happened in this game when they had a great platform built for them. Like they end up with 157, which is probably based on this World Cup at best par, at best par, and it just didn't feel like England really bowled to take wickets, and the captain has to take a share of the blame on that, I think.
Yeah, I also think we're doing a classic England thing here, though, that we have had an abject batting failure, and we are talking about where the bowling has gone wrong. And the bowling wasn't perfect, but the batting today is what ultimately cost us. It wasn't the bowling.
I don't know. I think that it really is both. There's no way that Ireland should be. Well, not. There's no way. I mean, that's ridiculous. Ireland are an okay team. Their big weakness is batting. Like if they batted like they bowl, they'd be really. They'd be Sri Lanka or something like that. Like but they don't. And I think you have to take advantage of where weaker teams are weak. You can't just bowl to them and sort of hope for the best. Hope you get a lucky run out.
But I'm not saying that. So sometimes in this, we know that our bowling stocks are not as good as they could be. Yes, there was mistakes ultimately made, but 157 is a score that England should be chasing down. And it's just the approach. The approach against Afghanistan was wrong when it came to the batting in terms of our intent. And that could well come back to bite us from a net run rate point of view, especially with this loss now. And then today, the intent was all wrong. Like I didn't. Really
so I disagree with this a little bit as well. I don't think that when you're 29 for 3 after 5 overs, you can, and you're only chasing 157, and you're playing against Ireland, where they have a really notable weakness at the death, that your approach should be to try and take down the middle overs. I actually think people will be like Milan 35 off 37, terrible innings. Brook 18 off 21, terrible innings. I think probably in the grand scheme of things that those are relatively neutral performances.
So I don't think that Milan's innings was actually that bad. The whole way through this tournament, we've been saying you need to have an anchor kind of in that position. I just think today we didn't execute. And Ben Stokes at 4 does not make sense to me in this lineup. It continues to frustrate. Moeen Ali is a better T20 batter than he is. Liam Livingston coming in at 7? He came in at today. Like that is not the optimal strategy for England. I don't think in this regard. We know that rain was about as well, and the fact that we knew that rain was about, I thought we should have shifted things a little bit further up and taken the game more towards them, even though we were in a position like we back down to 9. We're back down to 10 in some cases. We should have continued to go for the barrage.
Yeah, but again, the more wickets you lose, the higher the DLS required number is. I don't think that England. I don't think the way they batted was necessarily wrong. I think what sort of happened is that when they decided to press the accelerator, both of the players got out. And that's the difference effectively between, the most recent example of this is Kohli, and I'm not directly comparing Dawid Malan to Kohli here for the record because I know what people will think. But this innings or these 2 innings from Malan and Brook are effectively what Kohli and Hardik Pandya did against Pakistan, except both of them, Kohli went on to significantly improve his stat line, thanks in part to some relatively generous bowling from Pakistan. It's probably going to work less often for Dawid Malan. I don't think he hasn't got the shots that Kohli has in his locker, but I think he's done the right thing by rebuilding. He's rebuilt England into a reasonable position. They need to then have a couple of 10s. He goes for a 10 and he gets himself out, and then Brook can't launch either, and then the rain comes a little bit early. I mean, as you say, like England were 1 6 away from winning, and they probably got their 2 best 6 hitters at the crease, and in Livingston, maybe the best 6 hitter in the world. Like it's really, I think England have got some stuff wrong. I think there's also, in my eyes, anyway, there's an argument to be made that really there's nothing that's wrong in terms of structure and in terms of approach. 90% of the time, even with mistakes around when they bowl Chris Wokes and the fact that Liam Livingstone hasn't faced enough balls, which I think is definitely true. It's definitely fair. Even then, they still probably win this match in the circumstances 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah,
but that's T20 cricket. Like there is an element of randomness. Josh Little getting both the openers very early has a massive impact on what everyone else in that team, the England team, how they have to bat, and also takes the pressure off all of the rest of the Ireland bowlers. Now people, there are some good Ireland bowlers, but if Josh Buttler is in at the end of the power play,
it's over.
yeah, it's different. So I think probably the turning point is really Little taking those 2 wickets, putting England under a little bit of pressure.
It's just game management for me. We talk about it so often, I think, and I think just this game management, England got it wrong today, and it does take those small decisions in a very shortened game that makes a massive difference. So
yeah,
it was ultimately a deserved win for Ireland.
Yeah. 100%. If Ireland could regularly score 157, then they would be a pretty good team. Their problem, and we've said this, is sort of Sterling or bust most of the time, or like let's pray for something big to come in. Even today, to some extent, Balbirnie getting 60. If you're making a bet on this match, you're not pricing in an Andy Balbirnie performance, are you? When Sterling gets out, you're probably thinking that's a huge swing towards England, and you're not really that bothered by Andy Balbirnie. Today was his day, and captain's innings. Fair play to Ireland. Can they qualify?
No.
Oh, that's a shame. You've just immediately written them off. If they beat Australia and New Zealand, then they're well within it.
I'm just not sure. Today they only won because of the rain. As much as Ireland fans will be listening to this and kind of saying, "Well, you're just too soppy English fans." I'm a dual citizen, by the way, got an Irish passport.
Yeah, exactly.
Today,
both teams.
Yeah, I'm coming out trumps on today. We wouldn't have lost if we played a full T20, but that is England's problem, right? England weren't playing that, and they knew the rain was about. They knew that it was a risk. They didn't play into it anyway.
Someone has said a ditcher in the chat. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe, send us a message. Tell us whether you think England are going to go through or not. Give your percentage chance. I think it's about 30% at this time, maybe 40%.
Yeah. And England have been in that position before, Jack. Right. So when we did win the World Cup, the Big Boy World Cup, the ODI World Cup, we had
the greatest World Cup.
The greatest World Cup victory of all time.
Yeah.
We had to win every single game because we mucked up in the group stage, right? And so there we go. So again, in the same position, similar set of players.
Smashed everyone. India, no bother. Australia, see you later. Kiwis. Technically.
Just about.
Technically. Aditya said, this is a thing, and I think we've talked about this before. Aditya says, Michael Vaughan was visibly upset and highly disappointed about the England team. From the England team, gave him PTSD from the 2011 game. The Crick Buzz post-match gave the vibe. So it's a must-see. Apparently, this is something Michael Vaughan is upset. I couldn't give less of a shit about Michael Vaughan. I think there's an idea that because Michael Vaughan is English and he captained quite a good England team back in 2005, that people in this country have respect for him or like him. Actually, that's quite a long way from the case. Most people who are like sensible and normal think the guy is a moron and potentially a racist moron. I mean, there's allegations. He's
a clickbait merchant, isn't he?
Yeah,
That's what he is.
Yeah,
he's cricket's Piers Morgan.
And it's very clear what he's trying to do most of the time, which is wind people up for, as you say, Ross, clicks. I don't think he's really got anything to offer. I'm glad he was upset. No,
good.
I'm glad Ireland beating England made Vaughan upset. Right, so the other game today was rained off. We can briefly talk about implications here. Afghanistan v New Zealand. It means it's a little bit of everything came down Oz today, didn't it? England,
as it always seems to do.
Yeah. England slipped up.
It was that bit this morning. Was it this morning when I literally woke up and I was like, "Oh, I better check the England-Ireland game," and because I watch it. I was like, every time England are playing Australia, I just wake up disappointed. It's an awful, awful start to the day.
it is bad, but this draw or tie or whatever, no result for New Zealand, means that Australia's net run rate situation probably means less, because if they win all their matches now, they will at least catch somebody out of England, Zealand, depending on what happens in other games. So good for them, I suppose. A little bit disappointing probably for New Zealand, who might have seen that as a banker. I think it makes their route to qualification a little bit trickier, because England obviously, I don't think England losing today makes them more likely to beat New Zealand, but England were favourites anyway to beat New Zealand. And I think you said you could see New Zealand slipping up against one of the other teams. I think Afghanistan was their banker, really. I could see them losing to Ireland, and they might have struggled against Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka have got some players. Should we talk about yesterday, and that'll round off Group 1?
Yeah.
So yesterday's game was Australia. Australia took on Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka batted first, and they didn't really go anywhere. It was a relatively ponderous performance. I don't think it was for a lack of trying, to be honest, Ross. Nasanka was trying. Unfortunately, he didn't.
Just wasn't good enough.
Yeah. He got 40 or 45, and then set off for a single. Well, I mean, it was one of those things you had to see it to believe it. He hit it straight to the fielder, just ran halfway down the pitch, and then stood there. It was like,
yeah, what do you want me to do?
yeah. I think it was Asalanka at the other end, being like, I'm not taking this one for you, mate. You're out.
You've skewered yourself here.
It looked like Sri Lanka were going to come in way under par. And in our Discord chat, which you can join if you sign up as a Patreon, by the way, check out the show notes, patreon.com/thecricketpod. When they lost their 5th wicket, I was like, if they can get another 30 here, you never know. As it happened, I'm still not really sure how, but they managed to get an extra sort of 40 odd from the fall of the 5th wicket and got up to 157. It helped that there was a 5 wides in there. It helped that Asalanka got going. And 157. It looked like it was going to give them a really good chance. They came out with the ball. 5 balls into the match, another fast bowler broke down and had to leave the pitch with an injury.
Fernando.
They're on to like their 12th choice or something nuts like that.
Yeah, Malinga's going to come out of retirement.
That would be quite funny.
Baby Malinga has been called up though, isn't he? So
has he? Baby Malinga's back. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Baby Malinga is back in the side, so the one who debuted in the IPL this year.
I'm looking forward to that. I hope we get to see him in action. Basically, Sri Lanka were really good though. Even with the loss of Benura Fernando, they bowled really, really well up top. Aaron Finch made the unusual decision to play everything by jumping as high as he could in the air and then waving his bat at the ball. His
current his normal technique wasn't working. We had to try something.
He was aerial, I reckon. Let's say he faced 18 balls in the power play. I reckon he played 12 of them with both feet fully in the air. Was pretty jokes.
Hardcore.
And then he kind of got worse after that. Fortunately for Australia, when things looked like they might get really dicey, Glenn Maxwell came in and sort of steadied the ship. He was caught 76 metres out on the boundary. It was a great catch. Also, 76 metres is miles. And then Stoinis Stoinis was incredible. Let's talk about Stoinis. 59 off 18, 6 sixes, 4 fours. I think he edged a couple of those 4s, but the 6s, I think he hit every single one of them 95 metres or more.
Well, he literally said a couple of years ago, I want to be the best finisher in the world. And he's turning it, he does have games like this where you're just like, wow, that is incredible. Yesterday, it came out of nowhere as well, right? Like, Australia couldn't hit the ball off the square. Maxwell was just like, I think I can kind of do this. And then Stoinis was like, what is everyone else doing in this game? And he just blitzed it. It was like he was playing a different sport.
It was nuts. I mean, what was kind of a surprise in this match to some extent was everyone was waiting for Hasaranga to come in and to make things difficult. And the Sri Lankan seamers have bowled so well up front that they'd they'd put themselves in a situation where Hasarenka really had a chance to kind of come in and shake things up. He delivers 3 overs for 53 and is belted. Maxwell takes him down, then Stoinis takes him down. It was. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like whether this was a pre-planned thing from Australia. It looked like it may well have been. But that was the thing. It was the absolute violence of what Maxwell and Stoinis did to Hasarenka, who is Sri Lanka's best player, I think, by probably some distance. He literally, like, he was bowling a ball and then like sort of shrugging his shoulders and going like, I don't know what else to do, as like another one just sailed like 50 rows back at the Perth Stadium. It was like genuinely incredible. Maxwell also got sconed, or not sconed, but hit in the throat. I think by Kamara, who was bowling fast, like really really fast. And so I think Maxwell came in, took down Hasarenka, and then there was so much weird shit that happened in this cricket match. We're gonna have to talk about Finch in a second, but then did get sort of done over by Kamara before he was out. But yeah, Stoinis, I mean, like, the guy, he's such a nice guy as well. Like, afterwards, he just gave like a really self-effacing interview about how sort of happy he was to be doing it in front of his home crowd, and he had his mates there and so on. But yeah, in terms of like sort of global finishers, where do you think Stoinis is? Where do you rank him?
I don't know, he's had a bit of a mixed bag, doesn't he? In the last couple of years, he's done unbelievably well in the Big Bash when he played, and he was the leading run scorer. He did okay for Delhi. Didn't do particularly well this year, but that's part and part of T20 cricket. He's probably for batting in that position. I think he's top 10. He's in the top 10.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably fair. It answers the why didn't Australia pick Steve Smith question, I think.
Which is good to put to bed. All the people saying, he would have saved him in the last game. No, like, if you'd have Steve Smith, Australia would have lost this game.
Yeah, no, probably. Yeah, just incredible. It means Australia live to fight another day. It helps their run rate quite significantly. I thought it was a pretty creditable performance from Sri Lanka. They'll be disappointed with how Hasarenka went, and I think they'll be disappointed that another bowler's gone down. But they did okay. I think there was a chance. Yeah, go on.
I do have a problem with Shanaka deciding to bowl himself. Like, didn't need to happen.
Is this not because Fernando is out, injured?
But even then, like, they're going off the pitch with plenty of overs still left, with other bowlers who are better than Shanaka. Shanaka didn't go, I'm the captain, I'm going to have to do this here. Like, he just didn't have to do that. He should have used his resources and almost did a bit of a Babar Azam of try and get it so there's so many runs left in the final over and risk it.
And then get Nawaz, do a transfer for Nawaz.
Yeah. I was thinking more of a seed.
Last thing to mention from this match, and I think this is I'm going to pose this as a question: who did worse, Finch or Hasarenka?
I think. Well, that is a tough one.
So Finch, if you haven't heard this, Finch got 31 or 42 balls. Isn't it the lowest score by he hit one boundary? Yeah, it was a six. It was a six.
It's one boundary though. That is ridiculous.
He at one point he asked the umpire for help. Well, no, he went up to the umpire and he said, "If you've got any ideas about how to hit that, I'm open."
His innings was an abomination. In T20 terms, you're right. For a batsman to face more than 40 balls in a T20 is the lowest ever recorded score, lowest ever recorded strike rate, I think. The guy just proved that he's finished, absolutely finished, and yet in true Australian style, he comes away from it being, I won the game.
Technically, he did hit the winning runs.
He carried his bat.
Yeah. He also did the "I'm not worthy" kind of like bow down thing to Stoinis afterwards. Pretty jokes. I just can't get over Stoinis. It was some of the most incredible hitting I think I've ever seen. Like up there with the best I ever have seen.
And that's why this Australia side are so dangerous, right? On paper, they are like. But if you look at that I mean, look, David Warner, as much as David Warner is still a decent enough player, Finch is a joke. You kind of Finch and Smith the same side. Mitch Marsh proven in the last 12 months that he is a solid T20 player. Maxwell can twat it. Stoinis also. Tim David. Wade's been decent as well. Pat Cummins obviously took down whoever it was in the IPL this year. They've got some serious firepower, not to be messed with, especially on home turf.
Yeah, it was in Mumbai that he destroyed. I think it was Mumbai. Hopefully. That was incredible.
Half century.
14 balls. Yeah, I mean, like realistically, in this Australia side, there are 5 players that could get a 14-ball century or a 15, but not 14-ball century, a 15-ball century. Cummins has done it. You could see Tim David doing it. Stoinis basically did it today.
Yeah, Warner's done it
yesterday. Warner could do it. Yeah, Maxwell could do it. So is that 6? That's not too bad. That's some real firepower. Zampa has COVID, so he wasn't playing. Ashton Agar
did fine.
Did all right. Did all right. I wonder whether we're on something with leg spinners in this tournament. We'll see how they go. But I'm yet to see. I mean, Hasranga has taken wickets against less good opposition, but I'm yet to see one of the big boy leg spinners really show up so far. Yeah. The guy from the UAE, Mayapan, got hatted. Right, day before Ross, 2 matches. One of them we're going to do really quickly, and the other one we're going to talk about how farcical it ended. Bangladesh beat the Netherlands. Bangladesh got 144 for 8 batting first, which is very on brand for Bangladesh. It was a bit too much for the Netherlands, though. I think have shown relatively consistently in this tournament that they're not up to too much with the bat. A last wicket stand did make this look a little bit closer than it actually was. Bowled
Colin
out.
Ackerman actually turned up, didn't he?
Yeah, bowled out off the last ball of the innings for 135. Creditable performance from Netherlands. They'll be happy with that. Bangladesh will just be happy that they won. Anything major to take away?
The only thing I had was when I was looking through it, I don't know why, but in my head, you remember Shaggy, the artist?
Yeah.
It wasn't me. He's got sort of Mr. Boombastic, and he said Mr. Loverman Shabba. To my head now, every single time I see Colin Ackerman, I sing it in my head. So it's Colin Ackerman Shabba, and I have no idea.
Didn't I say that Shaggy was the famous person who best represented the West Indies? Like an absolute legend, but best days are behind him.
Yeah, well, maybe cricket songs about Colin Ackerman are going to.
Then the other game was, I think we called it the Africa Derby. Zimbabwe v South Africa. Now, it was very heavily rain affected from ball 1. So Zimbabwe only had 9 overs to bat. It started badly and it finished okay. They got 80 or 79 for 5. South Africa in response, Quinton de Kock in response. The rest of the South African batters faced 2 balls. Quinton de Kock faced 18. He ended on 47. Took South Africa to 51 for no loss after 3 overs. At which point the umpires took everyone off for rain, called the game off and split the points, even though South Africa had effectively won the match at this point. I think there's a few things that were wrong with this. One, the fact that they probably played in the first place. It felt a little bit like that because there was a bit of a mismatch here, and because South Africa probably were going to win, Zimbabwe had to play. They had to go and bowl in the rain when that probably shouldn't have been the case. And 2, how does South Africa not get the win? If they are so far ahead of the game at that point. And I think this has been addressed before by the people who came up with the DLS system, that the DLS target is a target. That's where you need to be to have won the game at the point. Like
2 overs in, you have to be here. 3 overs in,
not even so much that, but I think it was like at 5 overs when it's an official match, they had a target, and that was what the number that South Africa would have to be at was, and they'd already exceeded that. So why do they not get the win? It'd be like saying in a T20, the score you need to get to win, Ross, is 120. You get to 120 in 10 overs, and then the umpires are like, no, we have to carry on playing the extra 10 overs in case penalty runs or something comes into play. It'd be ridiculous, wouldn't it? You'd just be like, fuck off, mate, we've won the match. That to me feels like what should have happened here. And the people who
It's cricket common sense, isn't it? Sometimes it just makes no sense whatsoever. Like we get in our own way and hamper our own sport. It's very annoying. And South Africa might well be the unluckiest team in
ever.
World Cups. Although I've not seen anything like it. They always seem to be the team who are in the mud.
Well, yeah. I do feel
Literally in this sense because of the rain.
I'd be very aggrieved if I were them. I'd be especially aggrieved if I was Quinton de Kock, who obviously did all the hard work. It actually means a big reprieve as well. The other not big reprieve, but like it does bring Pakistan back into things a little. That drop point. So yeah, another repercussion.
Yeah.
Anything to add on that?
No, just again, like this World Cup has been really entertaining, and now the weather is playing its part. So it's another character in the rich tapestry that is this World Cup.
It has been an absolutely insane World Cup, hasn't it?
I'm loving it.
We've got a few questions. Do you want to blast through those?
Yeah, I've got to get back to work.
ASAP. Hold on, just loading it up. Right. Here we go. Oh, I've clicked the wrong button. Here we go. Here we go.
Message machine.
Yeah. Vivek says a European T20 Championship, please. Every alternate year, so I guess every other year. I think the standard is decent. Get a qualifier in, then you've got 5 teams plus the usual 4. It would be so great. I replied to this one already, and I asked, "Is this to give England exposure to some top quality T20 cricket?" What do you think about it? So I think I would like that plan. It doesn't have to.
We talked about it on one of the previous podcasts. To be fair, we kind of ruminated that this could be a goer. It is funny that England have never beaten a fellow European nation at a T20 World Cup. So obviously, played 4, lost 3, would have lost the other one, but it was a no result.
Isn't it full stop in T20 cricket or something like that?
No, it's not in full stop. It's in competitions.
Well, okay. When have we? I don't even know when we've played the others, like these teams outside of a competition, though.
I'm sure we would have done. Yeah.
It feels like a very England thing to have never played some of these teams in a T20.
I think we must have played Ireland at least in a T20. We've played
a bilateral T20.
So we might have. Yeah, I reckon there was a random bilateral T20. I reckon.
Okay,
we'll check.
Yeah. Jack Fox says, "How will England get their players up to international standard without access to opportunities in Irish domestic cricket?" I guess that's another good joke. I like that one. The cricket slouch, big one. If you were in charge of selection, would Milan and Stokes be in the playing 11? And if Moeen is in, what would be his ideal position? We didn't really talk about this, did we? That England could drop Stokes or Milan and play somebody else. I think I'd probably at this point in time have both in the 11, based on who's in the squad at the moment. I think when Topley was available, you could make the argument that you don't play Stokes because Topley's bowling is a banker 4 overs. He can bowl top and tail, and England probably got enough batting if you want to keep Curran in as well to get by. Without Topley, who are they going to pick? Chris Jordan? I don't actually know if Chris Jordan adds anything. There is a bit of a problem in that the pair of them can clog up the batting lineup a little bit. I don't know if that's actually what we've seen in all we saw today. I think Milan had to rebuild, and we're just looking at it at the end, or some people are looking at it at the end who weren't.
I don't know.
Who weren't watching. Yeah, I think his actual aberration of an innings was last game against Afghanistan, where he just went nowhere. But Milan, I mean, people kind of like to delude themselves a little bit that he is rubbish and should be nowhere near the England team, or B, that he's some kind of cricketing god because he made it up to the top of the ICC thing. He's like an okay anchor batter. He bats left-handed. He's versatile enough. He's reasonably cricket intelligent, and he's a decent fielder. Like he's probably England's weakest batter, but also probably do want someone who can provide a little bit of ballast, rather, a little bit of anchor, and throw in that he's left-handed. It kind of works. Stokes is a little bit more unknown quantity, but if he's bowling the way he is, then he does he does have a role to play in the team. I think Stokes needs to be bowling to command a place though, whereas Milan can just get in the team.
And that was what we said earlier, right? Stokes should have bowled a couple more overs in that power play. Like, it would have been okay. It couldn't have gone any worse than Chris Wokes.
I also like where Moeen bats for England. I understand that in other franchise tournaments he bats further up the order because he's excellent. But I think his presence in the lineup, lower down the lineup, makes teams do weird things because they're worried about the type of bowler they'll need to deal with Moeen later on. It means you hold back overs quick and can bowl short and stuff when they actually might be quite useful up top. Plus, he's a very good finisher.
Oh, Moeen is genuinely elite level T20 player, and I just don't think people realise it sometimes.
I think what were you going to say? Livingston's the more tricky one to place.
Yeah. Livingston's role in this team, like they've not got it quite right, I don't think. And like having Harry Brook in the side, Harry Brook's not really fired for the team. No. It's fair to say in this World Cup, and there could be a question mark and a bit of a rejig in that regard if they want to change things.
I think I'd like to see them use Livingston a little bit more flexibly. Maybe just launch him if the power play's gone well, first wicket. Falls in the 7th over, 60 for 1. Launch Livingston. Like, why not? Yeah. Like, see what happens.
That's the Livingston button.
Yeah, because you've always got Milan to fall back on. I think England can be a little bit rigid, and I don't know if today was exactly an example of that because of the way the wickets fell, and they probably they maybe didn't want to take that risk. There's a drill.
Or can we end the show with your drilling in the background?
I think we had one more, but we'll take it another time. Sorry, there's a drill. So thanks very much for watching. Thanks very much for listening. We'll be back next time.
Cheers, guys, for watching. Goodbye.